Good evening. Okay, so we will wait for a few minutes to join others. Okay. So by the time, if you have any doubt with respect to the last discussion, what we had in last week, you can ask me question. Okay. We will discuss in a short while. So let us wait for a few minutes for others as well. Am I audible to everyone? Good evening, Dinesh. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Now let us start with the issue. Okay. So the first issue is about the China's Evergrande crisis. Okay, and it has been described as America's Lehman Brothers collapse, as it was happened in 2008-9 when the financial crisis occurred, and during that crisis, and the impact of that crisis is still felt in the country, even in across the world. You can see India has not yet been able to recover from that crisis. If you can see, India is still facing challenges when it comes to the non-performing assets. So the banking sector has not come out with the NPA crisis as a result of those Lehman Brothers fall, and then it took all the countries in its recession, and recession caused by this one. So similar kind of problems occurred in China, and where a uh, property based companies, Evergrande, got into crisis because of the huge debt. So in this context, let us try to understand whether the ramification of Evergrande will be so big and so large. Is there potential to increase that kind of challenge, or bring that kind of challenge at the world level or not? So far, what we look at, that this crisis was controlled. You can say it was controlled because Chinese economy, you cannot exactly say what happens in the economy, but still what we look from the outside, it looks that China is able to control, but the bomb is ticking. So it is sit on $300 billion debt, and the debt has to someday this has to create challenge. So in this context, let us try to understand what are the issues with this Evergrande, and how it can impact the various sectors and also the various countries. So first thing first, it is the Evergrande is China's real estate conglomerate. Okay, and it has been recently in news largely because its inability to pay interest on its huge debt obligation. A lot of issues have come up, and these issues have largely come up due to the fact that the obligation to pay every year, its obligation is increasing. It is sit on $300 billion debt, and it has a huge obligation to pay, whereas the Evergrande is not able to perform in the market. Its value in the market is continuously going down, and there is also some kind of regulations that are being done in the country, in China especially, and therefore there are some problems coming in. Now this news was taking, and it created panic among the investors across the world, and the result of it can be seen in 1 to 2 days disturbance in the stock market of various countries. In Hong Kong, the stock market went down. Similarly, the impact was also felt in Dow Jones and other stock market across the world. Now, what is the trouble at Evergrande? So, China's the Evergrande Group is China's second largest real estate company in terms of sales and employees. What its business is, it deals with the land, it buys the land, then develop the infrastructure, basically housing and others, and then it sell it to the interested buyers. That is what it does. So core function, if I say, the core function is about the property development. It is engaged in such process. As a result of this, and in the process of buying land and uh, developing them into houses, it required a lot of money, and it took a lot of debt from the banks and investors. And this debt was also increased largely because the government, Chinese government, was also promoting the various companies to take loans from outside and increase the developmental activities in the country. So it was not only that the companies were taking loan on its own, because it was also because an environment was created in the system where Chinese were encouraging the companies to take loans from outside the world. Now there is a crackdown happening in the China, and therefore a lot of challenges are coming as a result of all this. As a, as it went on, the debt, it went on taking loans from the banks, and at the same time amassing huge amount of money from the investors. Its total liability increased to $300 billion, and according to an estimate, it has to pay $37 billion in interest, and that is, it has to pay the next year. So there are many debt instruments which are going to mature in the next year. So therefore, it has an obligation to make immediate payment of $37 billion in the next year, and that is what the problem is being caused. Even recently, there are news that $16 billion has been infused by the government, but yet it is $37 billion which the company has to make payment in the next year. So because of this news, and because of this increasing debt, it is not able to perform. And if you look at the share price, its share price has gone down to 80% in the last 1 year, which is considered as a 10-year low for the company's history. So this is what the status of Evergrande you see in the market. So it's a huge debt company which can create panic, and which is creating panic in the entire world. So now just try to understand why the company got into trouble, why such situation occurred. That we need to understand. It is not because of the company is not able to perform, but then there are many other factors which has brought this kind of situation. So one among them is that the property, there is a one regulation that is known as 3 red lines in China. The 3 red lines states that how much a property developer can borrow given its financial position. So if the financial position of any company is weak, its ability to borrow also gets down. So once the crackdown started happening in the economy, and regulators started crack down the various sectors, so this is one which is creating trouble for the companies. The company is not able to borrow more money from the market due to its disturbed balance sheet, or it's a bad balance sheet, because it is not able to recover money. On the other hand, it is not able to get money as well. So as a result, you see this is facing some sort of challenges. So due to regulations, so it has brought, like, the Chinese authority has cut off Evergrande from taking any more debt in the balance sheet. In fact, there are arguments made by the various peoples that the company's business model has been unsustainable for a long time, and as a result, the situation can be seen. Apart from that, the company is not able to perform well in the market as it is not able to sell its property. And as a result, a lot of inventories have been converted, and the problem has increased so far. It is also accused of running a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes are the schemes which are, under those schemes, you collect money in the informal market, where you make promises to make payment at a higher interest rate, and therefore a lot of people are making investment in such informal schemes. Similar kind of a Ponzi schemes you can see in India also. Sarda Ponzi scheme you might have heard in the West Bengal. So these Ponzi schemes offer high interest rate against the money they borrow from the people, or against the money they against the deposit made by the people. Now, in a country like today, in a situation like today, it is very difficult for paying such high interest rate. Look at the banks. Banks are able to pay only 5 to 6% on the deposits. So therefore, it is also difficult for a company to offer such high interest against the deposit. Whereas a Ponzi schemes, they promise interest rate of 12 to 15%. So this is, from the very fact, is not sustainable model, and as a result, you can see, the company comes into trouble, and every now and then you might have heard about a lot of Ponzi schemes which got failed into the system. So the company is said to be promoting the Ponzi scheme. It is also an unsustainable development model, and therefore the company again got into trouble. So that's why a number of people are referring it as a China's own Lehman moment. So Lehman Brothers, as the Lehman Brothers collapsed, the impact could be felt across the world. Similar things, the market reacted, of course, in that way, and immediately the market got crashed in various countries. However, it has recovered since then. Now, how it will create problem, and how it is creating challenges across the world. The first thing is that if Chinese government, if Chinese government is going for any kind of bailout, it has a potential to create disturbances in the supply chain and other sectors. For example, if government bail out the company, it will have to create fresh supply of money, which might increase the value of Chinese currency or depreciate the Chinese currency. So this can be a potential situation. So once you supply more money, more currency, the currency gets devalued or currency gets depreciated, and that is what the challenge might occur in when it comes to the China. Now, foreign investors, which have exposure to Evergrande, may experience losses because a lot of debt has been given to the company. But if it is not able to meet its payment obligation, in such circumstances, the foreign investors will have to bear the losses, and this may not give the good message outside the world. And as a result, the foreign investors will, they will not try or make any investment in the country. So there can be a potential situation like this. It can also, if any slowdown happens in the Chinese economy, especially in the property sector, so that will have a huge impact on the global supply chain. Why is it so? Because Evergrande is engaged in housing development. And as you know, the housing sector is one such sector which create demands for various goods. It is not creating demands for only the capital goods, but it also create demands for various consumption goods. So therefore, it can have a huge impact across the world and the various supply chain across the world. So for example, housing creates demand for steel. So therefore, you can see the immediate reaction of the market, even in India. The metal stock prices in India got crashed immediately after the news came out. So even across the world, you will see the similar kind of impact, because India is engaged in Evergrande is a Chinese public. It is a private company. It is a private company. So as a result, metal stocks in India witnessed a sharp correction, as I said, because housing can have a huge impact in creation of demand for the various metals as well as other capital goods. So that kind of situation that you can see, and therefore, because of all these slowdown and because of the various crackdown on the technology, as China has recently cracked down its education technology and other technology platform, and as a result, you see there is some sort of rebalancing act is being done, and therefore it is being suggested to the foreign investors that they should refrain from investing. In fact, the experts are arguing that because of the rebalances in its economy, the China can see further drop in its economic growth. So this is what we have expected with respect to the Evergrande, and this is what the trouble of Evergrande. So far, what we have understood that the problems are able to not spread so much, and the crash has not yet happened in the various market. It got crashed immediately after the following the news, but then the market has recovered. So it is I would say it is a story which is in the development. So let us see what happens in the future. But so far, this is about the problem with respect to the Evergrande. Got that point? So this is what we have understood. So most of the news in this week, you will see it's kind of a news, and therefore less number of news have appeared this week. Okay, but anyway, this is one of the news. Any question or any doubt or any comment that you would like to make on this particular issue? If you have no doubt on this issue, then we can move further to the next issue. So this week we will get to know the issues which are very which are very short and very news kind of things. There are not too much understanding about the issues that won't require, but the news this covers the news. Okay, any question with respect to the first discussion? Dinesh, Anjali, anybody has any question? Have you understood this concept? If you have understood, please say yes, and if you have any doubt, you can please raise your doubt.
Sorry, as you said, the many foreign companies invested in Evergrande Group. So is India is among one of them? India is also invested in Evergrande Group.
In which one? Sorry, Dinesh.
Now you already said that many foreign companies invested a part of money in Evergrande Group.
Yes. So there are many foreign investors. Yes, got that point. So there are many foreign investors, but Indian companies are shy away from investing a lot of money in Chinese market. So these investors basically from US and other countries, you will see. So their money are there, but not Indians. Okay. So what is interested for India is that the housing company. Okay, housing company. They create a lot of demand for metals and others. So there are many Indian companies which are exporting the metals to these companies or to this particular company. So that's why you saw there is a fall in the metal prices in the econ. There is a fall in the metal metal prices in the stock market. Okay, so there is no direct threat to India. Making sense, Dinesh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now let us move to the second issue, that is USA's Federal Reserve. Okay. Now remember, recently the Federal Reserve's decision regarding tapering. So there was a lot of hue and cry over the tapering issue. What will have impact? What will how will it make impact in the economy? So that was the news there, and let us try to understand what decision the Federal Reserve has taken and how it is very important for other economies. So economies like India and every other economies has a huge impact of the Federal Reserve's decision. So if any decision is taken by the Federal Reserve regarding its debt purchasing or regarding its bond purchasing, regarding its interest rate or any other thing, it can, it can make huge impact on every country's financial market, every country's share market. So therefore in this context, let us try to understand what the US Federal Reserve has said. So recently, if you look at the in the last week, there was a meeting of Federal Reserves, and in this meeting there was a decision that need to be taken by the Federal Reserve, and this decision was about the tapering of the bond buying. Basically, tapering means what? The slowing down of purchase. So what the Reserve is doing, the Federal Reserve is doing at present, that Federal Reserve is buying a lot of bonds. They are buying bonds from the market. So they have created a market for bonds. So they are buying bonds from the market, and as a result, once they buy the bonds from the market, they infuse a lot of liquidity into the system. So they are buying bonds and they are buying a lot of liquidity into the system. So money, lot of money that has come into the market, and as a result, Priyanka Reddy, please mute your voice. Please mute your voice. Priyanka, please mute your voice.
అన్న నా పేరు సని అన్న మీ సుబ్బా సెంటర్ లో పార్ట్ టైం జాబ్ కావాలన్నా రోజు మార్నింగ్ వస్తానా ఏమైనా చేస్తా రూమ్ ఇస్తా టిఫిన్ తెస్తా చాయ్ తెస్తా నువ్వేం చెప్తా చేస్తా సాలరీ కూడా వద్దన్నా సాలరీ వద్దా చాయ్ తెస్తా నేను అంత అవలేగా లెక్క ఎందుకు వస్తాను నాకు తెలియదా నా గీత కోసం
Priyanka Reddy, please mute your voice.
అట్లా అన్న ఒకసారి అన్న చెప్పండి కదా ఒక్కసారి ప్లీజ్
Priyanka Reddy, please mute your voice.
అయిపోయింది సార్ లీక్ మళ్ళీ అవ్వకూడదు లేదు అవ్వదు సార్ లోన్ ఏమిటైందయ్యా వస్తుంది సార్ పక్క వచ్చేస్తుంది
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I'm not able to see where I can mute. That is the problem. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I was talking about the Federal Reserve. So what Federal Reserve is doing? Federal Reserve is buying a lot of bonds from the market, and as a result, it is infusing liquidity in the market. So right now you see a lot of liquidities are available in the market. Okay, and the investors are getting, and one who is willing to make investment. So the money is available at a very cheaper cost at this point of time. If you look at the interest rate is very low in the country, and therefore it has become very cheaper, and the more money is in the hand of people right now, and they are making a lot of investment across the world because they are getting money at a cheaper cost. So therefore more availability of dollars in the hand of the investors, and they are making investment across the world. Okay, and this is the result that you can see in the Indian market also. The currently Indian market is getting a lot of FII from other countries, foreign institutional investment from other countries. So as a result, it is booming at this point of time. Okay, so if the tapering started happening, or if it is slow down its purchase of securities and bonds. So what is tapering? Tapering is purchasing, slowing down of the bonds and securities in from the market. So if it slows down the buying, if it slows down the buying of the bonds, in that case it will infuse less liquidity in the system, so the people will have less dollar in their hands. So as a result, you will see the investment will reduce across the world. So that's why there was a fear among the investors. So right now, and this is what you can understand the significance of Federal Reserve in other countries' economy and other countries' other countries' stock market and the economy. This is how the Federal Reserve can make impact. So this is what we need to understand in this context. So US central bank has maintained that it would maintain an accommodative stance. So far it has not reduced its purchasing of bonds from the market, and therefore it has still accommodative stance. And largely because as long as inflation and employment targets are achieved, they will still have accommodative stance. You can also understand from the news and by news in the RBI, even the RBI has also maintained its stance that it will maintain its accommodative stance in the market, because market is yet to perform well, market is yet to recover properly. So it has not thoroughly recovered. So it is expected that it at least the formal sector of the economy will recover by the end of this year. But right now, you cannot say that market has recovered, and this has pointed out by the Fed Reserve as well. So it has said so far we have not able to achieve or we are not able to recover. So there is risk are still there. So therefore, it has maintained that it will have accommodative stance. So far it will continue to buy bonds, but the slowing down of bonds process will start gradually. That is what it has said right now. So if you look at, it has decided to keep the target range of federal funds rate at 0 to 2.0 to 0.25%. So what is the rate of interest? Rate of interest is from 0 to 0.25% in USA. So the money is very cheap, cheaply available in US. So that is what it has been said. So as in this process, it said that if progress in the economy continues, moderation in the pace of asset purchase may be guaranteed soon. So it has not made commitment that it will slow down, but it depends on the moderation, or it depends on the economic recovery. If the economic recovery happens, in that case, it will slow down the process. But if economic recovery is not happened, so far it will have accommodative stance, and it will continue to buy bonds from the market and will infuse liquidity in the market. Got that point? Now, what is quantitative easing? Quantitative easing means what is quantitative easing? Quantitative easing, any country is, if the central bank of the country reduces all the monetary policy instrument rate of the all monetary policy instruments and allows more money supply in the market, that is known as quantitative easing. So right now, if you look at in India also, there is what RBI is following. RBI is following quantitative easing process. Under this one, it is trying to infuse more money in the market through various mechanisms by reducing the interest rate, or by reducing the monetary policy rate, and through open market operations as well. So through open market operations, it is buying more number of bonds from the market and infusing more money into the system. Okay, so if you look at the economy of US, it is faring poor. It has the jobless rate is still 5.2% in August, and due to lockdown. So there were lockdowns at various places because the number of cases were rising, and so therefore it went for quantitative easing. So throughout the lockdown, it has adopted the practice of quantitative easing through open market operations. So you got that point, open market operation. So under open market operation, it goes forward, it goes for buying more number of bonds from the market and injecting liquidities in the market. So this is what it does. So in a way, if it does, it helps in keeping the interest rate low. Why? Because it injects more money, and banks, let's say banks have more money in their hands, so therefore they provide loans at a cheap or at a lower interest rate. So that is what the quantitative easing policy being followed across the world and USA as well. Now, how it is related to, as I said to you in the first, at this place, the similar kind of things you will see here also. So what do you see? The low interest rate in US. So in US, there is a low interest rate, and as a result, the flow of funds, is increasing, and because they have a money, more money are available with the investors, so they are putting more money into the other equities, including the Indian equities. So therefore, you can see the rise of foreign portfolio investors. If the interest rate, instead of interest rate will lower, if the interest rate is higher, in that case, you will see the less money will be available with the people, because the cost of capital will increase, and as a result, they will, they will go for, there will be outflow of foreign, portfolio investors from the market, and the less amount of money can be seen in the stock market, and therefore you can see there will be crash in the market, or there may be crash in the market in that circumstances. Okay, so it is related to this. So this is what we have. Now, this is how the federal bank's decision or Federal Reserve's decision can have impact on Indian equities and can have impact on other equities as well. Have you understood this process? So this relation, you must understand this relations very well. Okay, because it can make impact not only on capital market, it can also make impact on the rupee account as well, and on the rupee exchange market as well. So if there will be sudden outflow of the money, in that case the rupee gets depreciated, and if there is inflow of money, the rupee gets strengthened in such economies. Making sense to everyone? Anybody has a doubt so far? So this is what decision has been taken, and yes. So this is what you can see impact of Fed's decision, Federal Bank's decision in Federal Bank's or Federal Reserve's decision on and its impact on India. So this is how you can see impact. Its impact can be felt in terms of inflow and outflow of foreign institutional investors. Its impact can be seen in the currency price, so fluctuation in the currency. Its impact can be seen in the forex reserve as well. So more inflow of funds happens, the more dollar will come into the country, and as a result, the RBI may also buy money from the open market, and the forex reserve may also increase. And you might have witnessed that recently there is a huge upsurge of foreign forex reserve in the country. It has reached to $642 billion of late. Currently it is 639, but it has reached to $642 billion at this point of time. Okay, so that is what the changes that you can see in that is what you can see the changes when it comes to the federal bank's decision. Making sense to everyone? I hope everyone is able to establish correlation between the factors. So this is what the correlation between the various factors. So if the prices gets reduced, or if the interest rate gets reduced or increased, this will have an impact on other countries' bond market, other countries' capital market, and various other factors. Has everyone understood this relation, or shall I explain it more? If anybody has if anybody is not able to understand, please raise your concern, or if you have understood, please say yes. If everybody has understood, please say yes. Okay. What about other students? Divyam, Kesav, Mohar, Navya, Pallavi, Reddy, Priyanka Reddy, Vans, Sunil Verma. Have you got this one? Okay, everyone has understood this concept. Okay, no doubt. How many of you have already attended economy classes? You all have attended economy classes. I can identify certain students for sure, but I cannot. Okay, so Anjali has attended. So one who has attended the economy classes will have a no doubt. But if you have not attended, you can also understood it. There is no issue with that. Okay, fair enough. So now let us move on to the next issue. So this is how it is related. Let me ask you, this question has already been asked, and it is always very significant for Indian economy. So it is very important. So remember, this kind of question will be asked in mains and prelims as well. So it is, so you need to understand it. Okay. Now let us move from economy to there are other topics as well. Okay. So when it comes to economy, I don't see many significant issue this time, but whatever the issues are there, we will discuss. Okay, now next is AUKUS. You might have heard about the AUKUS a lot. Okay, AUKUS, A for AU for Australia, UK for UK, and US. So it's a grouping of 3 countries: Australia, UK, and US. Okay, so this grouping has been created recently, and this grouping is especially significant. Significance, it has a huge significance for a country like India, because India is engaged in forming another quad. So there is another other grouping that has been formed, and that is known as quad. In quad, you can see there are 4 members: Australia, India, Japan, and US. Okay, whereas AUKUS has a 3-member: Australia and US. So therefore, in some experts are seeing it as a countering to India and as a Japan. Their significance is also going down. In fact, what it is trying to do, AUKUS is trying to make the it is about the centrality. Which country will have a central role when it comes to the Indo-Pacific strategy? So therefore, if Australia, you see the Australia is a common in both the groupings, in Quad as well as in AUKUS. So therefore, it is being considered whether Australia will be a center of this Indo-Pacific strategy or not. So in this context, there has been a lot of a hue and cry, and there has been a lot of issues raised by the various policy experts, that whether this particular AUKUS will create some sort of challenges and will undermine the Quad, may undermine the Quad in the future. So in this context, it may create both opportunities and challenges for India. Now let us see what are the challenges that lies ahead with this. So if you look at, as I said, that United States, United Kingdom, Australia announced a new trilateral security partnership, and this is known as AUKUS. Now, the AUKUS has a various specific things, and what the agreement is talking about. The agreement is the agreement aims to ensure that there will be no enduring freedom, and there will be enduring freedom and openness. So it talks about freedom and openness in Indo-Pacific region. So it is talking about that the Indo-Pacific region must be free, and there must be openness. There must be no coercive force which can claim it as their backyard, and therefore there must be freedom of navigation in that particular region. That is what it calls for. It under this agreement, both America and Britain has proposed to transfer technology to Australia to build a nuclear powered submarine. Okay, so it is what trying to do. It is trying to transfer technology so that it can build a fleet of nuclear powered submarine for Australia, and that has been promised to be built within 18 months. And once it happens, the Australia will become the second nation after UK that US has shared this technology. Okay, so in that case, it is considered as a very significant development in international relation, and that's how it carries its significance. Now, China, both China and France have reacted very sharply against this, whereas India have not reacted very sharply, but it understands that the centrality is with the court, and therefore it maintains this one. So far, when it comes to making a response against the formation of AUKUS, it has become non-committal for so far with respect to the AUKUS. Now, what the agreement is talking about? The submarines to be conventionally armed and are powered by nuclear reactors. In a way, what it is trying to do, it is aimed at something you can say it is related to military, kind of a military confrontation is being pushed in the Indo-Pacific region. It will give Australia naval heft in the Pacific, especially in those regions where China has been particularly aggressive. This partnership complements several pre-existing similar arrangements for the region. Like you can see, there is a Five Eyes Intelligence Cooperation Initiative. There is already ASEAN. There is already Quad. So these kind of pre-existing arrangements are there, and especially if you look at the US is playing a very pivotal role in creating such similar arrangement in these regions, whether it is about the Quad, whether it is about the Five Eyes Intelligence Cooperation initiatives, it is playing a pivotal role. So in this context, let us just understand what is Five Eyes Intelligence, because the question might be asked in prelims examination with respect to the Five Eyes. So you must remember this information, that Five Eyes in intelligence sharing alliance, as the name suggests, and it comprises the members like US, UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. So there are 5 members in this one. So that's why it is called as Five Eyes in an intelligence sharing alliance. It is the origins of Five Eyes can be traced back to the World War. So during the World War II, it was formed, and in this context, there can be questions like this one. So it is considered at par with the AUKUS. So AUKUS is in fact significant development, especially it is military cooperation between these 3 countries that we can see with the formation of AUKUS. Now, it can create opportunities for Quad as well. It can create challenges as well. So there are both the things. We should look at both the aspects of AUKUS. So when it comes to the AUKUS can strengthen the Quad agenda. Especially the Quad agenda is what? It has also agenda to keep the Indo-Pacific region free, open, and inclusive. The similar kind of agenda has been mentioned under the AUKUS agreement as well. So in a way, it will be complementing the Quad agenda in Indo-Pacific region. So that is one benefit that we can see with the formation of AUKUS. However, India must be apprehensive about the formation of AUKUS, because AUKUS is trying to establish the centrality in Indo-Pacific region. So it is trying to establish centrality of Australia in the Indo-Pacific region, whereas the Quad is making India as a center of Indo-Pacific region. So that is how we need to look at the various shift that is being taken place. Apart from that, it can also bolster the Quad's effort on maritime exercise, security and countervailing COVID-19, climate change, cooperation on critical technologies, and building a resilient supply chain. However, it must be keep in mind, even though these are the Quad's objective, but these are not mentioned in the AUKUS objective. AUKUS is primarily a military partnership between these three countries, whereas Quad is going more than military partnership. It is not, they're not so much intense with respect to the military participation with the formation of Quad. This also, US's comeback on partnership with the fellow democracy and engage with Indo-Pacific flank is in the lines with the India's hopes. Now, this is being, this is being suggested. However, if you follow the news closely, you will find even the UK was interested to join the Quad. But now with the formation of, because it wanted to play a pivotal role in Indo-Pacific region, so therefore it it was interested in joining the Quad. But of late you don't see with the formation of AUKUS, there is less chances that UK will join the Quad, and yet it will play the role because there will be AUKUS. Okay. So that is where you can see. Apart from that, India is still considering AUKUS. AUKUS is not the substitute for Quad, so therefore Quad can play pivotal role. As of now, this is what it has been. It is seen, but then there are a lot of concerns, and the concerns are raised by various countries. And India also has some concern, especially when India has put a lot of effort. India has faced a lot of ire against China, and our relationship of late has deteriorated with China. And so, in such circumstances, after investing a lot on Quad, if such new formation takes place, in that context, it is bound to increase some suspicion among the Indian policymakers with respect to the larger game plan that is being visualized, that has been visualized by the US. So therefore, there is a concern with respect to that. Now, more important concern is about the timing of the announcement. Now, this announcement has been made just before the Quad's first physical summit. So the first physical summit of Quad has been completed yesterday. Okay, so yesterday the meeting was attended by the 4 members for the first time. So therefore, just before the Quad leaders meet, this has been announced, and that's why this is overshadowing the Quad. It also signaled that US is engaging with the Quad to less substantive issues, and that is where the problem is. So you basically Quad, the issues like climate change, issues like vaccine development, and so on are a lot of issues that has been identified as an issue under the Quad. So therefore, that is a significant change that you can see during the Biden era. Trump has given a lot of emphasis on the Quad. It wanted to develop Quad as a military and as a strong um, grouping which can counter China in South China Sea and other in the Indo-Pacific region. But with the formation of AUKUS, the Quad will not be able to play pivotal role. The AUKUS will play more pivotal role because it is more kind of a military engagement between these three countries. Now, what is US is now promoting a security partnership with its Anglo-Saxon treaty. Okay, so therefore, it is upsetting the balance of power in the region, and especially with the avoidance of France in the or with escaping the France from this kind of treaty. What it is trying to undermine the France presence in Indo-Pacific region. France has a huge presence in Indo-Pacific region. In terms of military, it has more than 7,000 military, which are having a presence in Indian Ocean. So it has a huge interest in the Indian Ocean. With the promotion of UK in fact trying to balance the France presence in Indian Ocean. So therefore, there was some sort of tensions that arise. The tension was arised also because of the fact that Australia cancelled its order creation of submarines for or formation of submarine or creation of submarines for the country or for Australia. So that's why it was so much the France was so much averse of the AUKUS. India also views that agreement can set up a new tension to India's east, especially when India has faced some sort of challenges when it comes to Afghanistan. So, in Afghanistan, India had a huge interest, but India could not make any significant, it could not make its presence felt in that region, and whatever it invested for the last 18 years are not producing enough good deeds for India. So that is where, if new tensions, so if the similar kind of things you can see, if it is happening where it is being undermined by the formation of AUKUS, so that will restrict the government, or that will restrict India in the eastern side and as well as western side. So from the western side, you can see its role has been restricted because of Afghanistan, and also in Iran, we are not able to play very pivotal role because China has already made its progress in Iran. So our influence in the region has all decreased, whereas the similar kind of things will happen with the formation of AUKUS. So that is what it is being seen as. India does not see AUKUS as nuclear proliferation so far, but it has definitely noticed the protest from other countries such as France. Okay, and that's why it has a similar kind of arguments, or somewhere it felt that it has been skipped, it has been avoided, and there is it might not be able to play the central role as it was expecting to be played under the Indo-Pacific strategy. Now, if you look at the AUKUS and Quad, these two are playing a different role. There are some differences, but then there are similarities as well. So AUKUS, when it comes to the differences between AUKUS has recently been announced by the government. Of course, it will announced by three countries, it will take some time to develop or to become as a mature agency, whereas Quad was in making since 2007. So it is not a new agency. It has, significantly devoted a lot of time in the process. So therefore, it is definitely a decade-old agency. So that is one difference. As I said, AUKUS is Security Military Alliance. It is purely a security alliance where the objective is to counter China has been specifically mentioned, while Quad is a diplomatic alliance. So here the issue is not purely security and military. That is also part of that, but it is not purely a security or military alliance. So that's why in this way, the AUKUS is different from the Quad. The countries under AUKUS, of course, include Australia, UK, and US. Whereas under the Quad, you will see both Australia and United States are represented under the Quad. But apart from them, there is India and Japan as well. AUKUS specifically will deal with the security and military situation in the Indo-Pacific region, where the Quad focuses on multilateral issues such as economic discussions, security affairs, and global affairs. So it's issues. There are a wide range of issues that it will cover, and whereas AUKUS has a very less role, it will cover only the security and military situation. So that in that way there are differences. Now, Australia would be helped to develop under this AUKUS agreement. It has been mentioned that Australia will be helped by these countries to develop nuclear powered submarines. Okay, but in Quad only military exercise like Malabar has been conducted so far. No nuclear submarines and kind of things that has been developed and that has been discussed to be developed. However, there is one similarity. That similarity is both have a common interest in protecting the Indo-Pacific region, where you see that China has continuously increased its domination in the last few years. So that is what the discussion about the AUKUS and Quad. It has not specifically mentioned about the military alliance, even though there is a Malabar exercise, but then it has not mentioned about that it is a military alliance which aims to target, specifically if you look at India. India has always avoided making such statement, and therefore it has so that our relation with China should not be deteriorated so much. So therefore, so far the India has against such military alliance and referring Quad as a military alliance. Okay, so have you understood about the Quad? So in this context, there is a significance of Quad as well as the AUKUS, but AUKUS might rebalance the things. During the Trump era, there was Quad, and in the Quad, India was playing pivotal role. But now, with the with the coming in power, with the Biden coming in power, this Quad has been undermined, seems to be undermined by the Biden administration, and it is giving more weightage to AUKUS as it seems right now. Because look, every president in US, they will definitely try to have their view about the world, and they would try to incorporate something. They would definitely try to leave some legacy. So therefore, as part of that legacy, I would understand that AUKUS is being developed, but how it goes, it will take some time to get in the process. So far, it is a military alliance. Objective is to enhance the nuclear powered submarines or develop the nuclear powered submarine in Australia. That is what it has been mentioned. Any questions so far? Anybody has a doubt or question or comment? The formation of AUKUS? No, I don't think the formation of AUKUS is going to help India, even though it is being mentioned in this article, because that is what we need to do. But and that we should hope for. But understand the formation of AUKUS is creating some sort of challenge for the for India. Why is it so? Because Quad, in the Quad, there is a centrality of India. It's an Indo-Pacific strategy. So there is a centrality of India. But when with the formation of AUKUS, the shift, because apart from US, which one is the common member? Australia. So Australia, UK or US is trying to project Australia as a center of the Indo-Pacific strategy. So therefore, in fact, within the Quad, you can see there could be difference of opinions. There could be difference, and there could be a sort of there's a sort of competition. So there could competition can be seen between Australia and India. Okay, what is Indo-Pacific region is basically the Indian Ocean. Okay, the Indian Ocean and those regions that you can see. Okay, the South China Sea. Okay, South China Sea region, South China Sea, and then Indian Ocean regions. This is how the Indian Ocean regions are there. So let's say India, and there. Oh, this is India, and you can see these regions. Okay, these are what? South China Sea, here Indian Ocean. So it is about Indo-Pacific. So Indian Ocean, and there is a Pacific Ocean, especially the Western Pacific Ocean. Yeah, no, this is Eastern Pacific Ocean, eastern part of the country. So East Pacific Ocean, and here the Indian Ocean. So that is what's saying Indo-Pacific region. So these Indo-Pacific region plays a pivotal role because oil, 80 to 90% oil goes from this region. So therefore, this plays a huge role, and that is what about the Indo-Pacific region. Making sense to you or no? You got the point? Look at the map and see India, and below India you will see Indian Ocean, and then the Indian Ocean there is a passage. Okay, Malacca Strait. Through Malacca Strait you will reach to the South China Sea. So these reason, because China is considering the South China Sea is its a backyard. So therefore all the oceans in these all the islands in these regions are being controlled by China. So that is what you, because it is named also. So South China Sea and Indian Ocean, it is mentioned like this one. So that is what it is saying, Indo-Pacific region. Okay, anybody has any more doubt? No doubt so far? Okay. So I believe everybody has understood. If you have understood, please say yes. Karan, you don't have any doubt? Okay, good. If you have understood, please say yes. Everyone, I am requesting everyone to, if you have understood, please say yes. If you have not, please raise your question. Then we will move on to. Okay, good. So this question is very important because the AUKUS and Quad with the formation. So probably you can expect with the formation of AUKUS, will it create some challenges for the Quad? And rightly so. The question must be asked, and this is what you can see the question with related to. You can expect that question. Okay. Now there was a news with respect to the judicial selection. Okay. So a new development we can see about the judicial selection. So here, there was some issue come up. The Supreme Court of India's Collegium has made proposals to alter the composition of various high courts. So Collegium is basically a group. It's a group, okay, where the members are CGI and other four highest judges or senior most judges. Senior most judges are there in the collegium. Basically, the collegium is a grouping of judges. Okay, under this collegium, the responsibility of the collegium is to make or making suggestions for the appointment of various judges in the country. So that's why the collegium has been uh, established by the uh, judiciary. So a lot of debate has been around the collegium, about its development, about its nature, about its authority, and so on, regarding the appointment of the judges. So a lot of issues have come up. So right now, the new issue has come up that Supreme Court of India's collegium has made proposals to alter the existing composition of various high courts. So therefore, in this context, let us try to understand what it is talking about and what is the collegium, how it has been developed. So with respect to the proposal first, let us try to understand what the proposal has been made. It is said that recently new Chief Justice will be appointed to as many as 8 high courts. So there are pendings. So appointment is pending. So therefore, it has been suggested that new Chief Justice will be appointed in eight high courts. So for this, there will be 5 existing Chief Justice position that will be swapped from one state to other states. These recommendations are seen as a reflective of new and proactive collegium that has been said, and in a matter of collegium's opacity, and uh, there has been a lot of question in recent with respect to its independent scrutiny and its opacity. So therefore, what it is trying to say, it is trying to improve, and therefore it is trying to make a changes. Now, this is the news, but we need to understand what is the issue with this one. So in this context, now let us try to understand the procedure for appointment of judges. What are the procedures for appointment of judges? So if you look at the appointment of judges in the Supreme Court and High Court, these differ. These differ in the sense the collegium comprise different members. So if you look at the Supreme Court judges, they are appointed by the President of India. But for this, the President of India also make consultation with the Chief Justice of India and other judges. So there is a collegium which makes suggestions to the President, and President makes a decision on the basis of those suggestions made by the collegium. Similarly, if you look at the High Court judges, they are appointed by the President. Remember this one. Even the High Court judges are also appointed by the President. However, in this case, governor of the state is also okay. They also play a very pivotal role. So, in consultation with in the consultation with CGI, governor of the state, and chief justice of that court are also taken into account. So their opinion, their opinion are also taken into account. So when it comes to the Supreme Court judges, appointment of Supreme Court judges, here the collegium comprises CGI and the 4 senior most judges. And when it comes to the collegium of High Court judges, here consultation is done with CGI, governor of the state, and Chief Justice of the state. So remember one clear difference, that High Court of judges are not appointed by the governor. Okay, in most of the cases you will see governor is acting like the president in the state, but here in this case governor is not appointing the CGI, appointing the state High Court judges. It is the president who appoints the High Court judges. In case of transfer, it is the president who may move a judge from one High Court to another High Court. But for that, there is a need for consultation with CGI. So with the consultation of CGI, the such transfer can be done. So in a way, if you look at CGI play, Chief Justice of India play a very pivotal role with respect to the appointment of judges in Supreme Court and High Court, and the transfer of judges from one court to another court. Now, let us try to understand the collegium in this context and how it has evolved over a period of time. So, if you look at the Constitution, there is no mention of the collegium. Collegium is, in fact, has been created at a later phase. So, in the original Constitution, there was no mention of collegium. Okay, collegium. So that grouping was not mentioned. This was created later on. So if you look at the Constituent Assembly, it has clearly mentioned that it wants to avoid a consultative process of appointing judges, and especially the consultation with the legislation, because it may include it may influence the appointment of judges. There could be political pressure on when it comes to the appointment of judges. So it avoided legislative interference, because that will be undemocratic in the nature, in the sense that in a democratic, every organs of the government are countering other organs. So, and at the same time, there is enough independence that has been provided. If it is left on the if it is left on the parliament, so parliament can make intervention in appointment of judges. So therefore it has been avoided. Instead, it says what? It vested that power of appointment and transfer of judges with the High Court. Okay, with the president. So it vested that power with the president. So president has a power to make both appointment and transfer of judges. Okay, between appointment of all the judges and also transfer of judges from High Court, one court High Court to another. So, however, the president was required to consult certain authorities in such case, and in such case, Chief Justice of India and Chief Justice of High Court, as we have seen, required to be consult when such appointment is taken place. Now, when it comes to the consultation, what the consultation means? The consultation means, as it has been said, the consultation could not be or interpreted as a concurrence. Okay, so consultation is not considered as a concurrence, that once the consultation is done and every decision is done on the basis of what is being suggested. Okay, so it doesn't happen like this one. So accordingly, the CGI's opinion was not binding on the executive. So if the CGI has suggested something, so it was suggested that it is not binding. So consultation doesn't mean that CGI has a binding. CGI's decision will be binding on the executive to follow. Even the executive could depart from the opinion, but that could happen in exceptional circumstances, and that could be subject to judicial review, and that has been mentioned. So consultation means what? Consultation doesn't mean concurrence. So for that, the CGI's opinion can also be overruled. But if it has been overruled, that could be a subject to judicial review by the Supreme Court. So it is basically, the system was there, this fairly balanced in the first judge's case in 1991. In the first judge's case, it endorsed this interpretation that the consultation doesn't mean concurrence, and therefore CGI's opinion can be overruled by the executive. However, in the second judge case, that was in 1993, the court overruled its earlier decision. It says that consultation means concurrence, and the CGI's views enjoy primacy. So here, the CGI's opinion was considered as a binding, and there must be primacy given to the Chief Justice of India's opinion in the context of appointment of the judges. Because it was considered that the CGI could be best equipped to know and assess the worth of the candidates, because it is engaged in the process. Okay, However, it mentioned that CGI was to formulate the opinion only through a body of senior judges. So CGI will not make decision or form opinion on its own. So therefore, there will be a grouping of CGI and other senior judges of the Supreme Court, and this grouping is known as collegium. So if you look at the collegium, the existence of collegium came in 1993 when the second case, when in the second judge's case, the court overruled its earlier decision and called for formation of the CGI. In third case, 1988, the third judge's case, 1998, the court clarified that that collegium would comprise CGI and four more senior most colleagues. So CGI, so it has been evolved. So if you look at in 1998, so it has been identified CGI plus four senior most judges would be the part of collegium. Similarly, if you look at the collegium of the High Court, there will be CGI and two senior most colleagues in case of appointment of High Courts. Additionally, for High Court, collegium would consult other senior judges in the Supreme Court who had previously served in that particular High Court. So that is what it has been added. That is how the various collegium has been established. When it comes to the CGI's opinion, whether that will be binding or not, that judgment are silent in the third judge's case. So whether it will be binding or not, that was not there. So it remains silent. Now, further progress, if you look at National Judicial Accountability Commission, that was National Judicial Appointment Commission was was created by 99th Amendment Act. So it wanted to establish a National Judicial Appointment Commission. It wanted to replace the collegium with the National Judicial Accountability Commission with respect to the appointment of judges, but then it was overruled by the state, and this it was overruled by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court struck down NGAC, that is 99th Constitutional Amendment Act, and the rationale was given that it will enhance the politicians' role in the appointment of the judges, and there can be so there can be a chances that a politician will have equal say in judicial appointments to constitutional courts. So this may affect the balance of power, and so balance of power between the various organs of the government, and that is one of the important aspects of the basic structure of the Constitution. So on ground of the basic structure of Constitution, that NGAC is violating the basic structure of the Constitution, it was struck down. Now, what changes? Now you can consider what is being considered as a fourth judge's case of 2015. The court upheld the primacy of the collegium. It means what? The decision of the collegium must be binding on the government. So therefore, it declared that collegium is a part of Constitution's basic structure. Okay. So it is a part of the Constitution's basic structure. So therefore, it cannot be struck down by the Parliament. Okay. And its power could not be removed even through a constitutional amendment. So when it comes to the Constitution of basic structure of the Constitution, it cannot be those part of the Constitution which forms the basic structure of the Constitution, that cannot be changed even by the constitutional amendment, and that it has been suggested about. So If you look at circumstances, so judgment promised to consider appropriate measures to improve the collegium system, but the collegium system will remain when it comes to the appointment of judges that it has been mentioned. So this is how you can see the progress of the collegium system in the country. Now, the question comes when it comes to the high courts, how the prestige of the high courts can be restored. So the thing is that the constitution emphasizes no power of administrative superintendence in the Supreme Court. Means the Supreme Court has no power to administrative superintendence on high court. So that must be maintained. That must be maintained. Apart from that, present system and the mysteries underlying the decision making can dilute the high court's prominence. So therefore, there is a lack of transparency. The transparency must be strengthened. The Chief Justice must be provided with ample tenure through reforms. So the tenure must be provided so that they can also introduce some sort of reforms in high court. So that is another things that we need to do. Apart from that, the prestige of high courts requires more than just accountability in the process of appointment. This also requires the administrative administrative transparency at that level. Apart from that, it also requires reform in terms of adequate number of judges in the system, in terms of reducing the number of cases, in terms of efficiency in dealing with the various cases, implementing the various digital or e-court provisions in e-court and so on. So when you look at enhancing the accountability, these are the various things that can be done in order to strengthen the system at in order to strengthen the prestige of the high courts. So what we have understood that there was some sort of changes when it comes to the composition of various high courts. So this is what it has been suggested. Now this is the procedure that has been followed. So in this context, we try to understand the collegium system, its presence and its evolution. So this is what we have understood. Now I hope everybody has understood. Now if anybody has a doubt, please raise your question. If anybody has a doubt, please raise your question. Or if everybody has understood, please say yes. If you have understood, then please say yes. Or if you have doubt, please raise your doubt. No doubt so far? Okay, everyone, please say, if you have understood, please say yes. If you not, please raise your question. Okay, so fair enough. So everybody has understood this concept. So collegium, have you got the idea of collegium? So what is collegium? How it has been developed so far? So which judge's case? Now, if I ask a question, under which judge's case there was a formation of collegium? Can somebody tell me when the system of collegium got into existence or came into existence? Now, who will answer when the collegium system came into existence in the country? Okay, Kesav has rightly pointed out, it's 1993 under the second judge's case. Okay, so under the second judge's case, the collegium came into existence. Okay, so this is what. Now tell me whether the collegium system was prevalent in or whether there is a mention of collegium system in the original constitution. Is there any reference with respect to collegium? Okay, so tell me one question, tell me one thing. The Collegium of the Supreme Court comprises which members? Who are the members of Supreme Court Collegium? Who are the members of Supreme Court Collegium? Okay, Chief Justice. No, 4 judges of High Court. No. Chief Justice and 4 judges of Supreme Court, not High Court, Dinesh. CGI plus 4 senior judges. CGI and President. Collegium is comprised of what? Collegium is what which suggests for the appointment of judges, and President takes the decision on the basis of recommendation made by the Collegium. So how can a Collegium comprises the President as well? So Collegium comprises, it's written there, just look at here. So Collegium comprises CGI plus 4. I have already mentioned here CGI plus 4. Okay, 4 senior most colleagues in the Supreme Court. Okay, so that is there. So please pay enough attention. Okay, now who will tell me the full form of NGAC? Who will suggest? Who will tell the full form of NGAC? NGAC.
99 Judiciary Amendment Act. Amendment, not Act. Amendment.
No. Yes, it was act. It was act, but then it was struck down by the Parliament. Struck down by the Supreme Court, National Judicial Appointment Commission. Okay, Kesav, you have not paid enough attention to the class, so I can understand. I can see National Judicial Appointment Commission. Okay, you try to include. Okay, fair enough. So please pay enough attention, okay, on the discussion. So only then you can get benefited in the process. Okay. Now the next issue is, okay, I got that point. Yes, this is largely because of that. Okay, next issue is Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Yojana. Okay, so Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Yojana. This program is very significant. Why is it so? Because recently, even in the yesterday, Mr. Prime Minister has mentioned or referred the PMJ scheme in United Nations. So therefore, we will try to understand what this scheme is, and also this scheme has completed 3 years. So therefore, in this context, it has a significance. But before going into this one, I will take a 10 minutes break, because I believe you guys also need some sort of break. So let's take a 10 minutes break, and after break, we will discuss from here onwards. So we'll discuss about the PMJ and various other things that we have planned to discuss. Okay. So we will, it is 7:30. So we will meet at 7:40. We will meet at 7:40. Okay, so let's take a small break. We'll meet at 7:40. Welcome back to everyone. Now let us discuss about the Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi scheme. So Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi scheme has recently completed 3 years. It has completed 3 years, and it has played a significant role in terms of addressing the challenges of equitable access to inpatient healthcare for the poor. So what are the, first of all, let us understand about the components of the scheme. So the scheme it was launched in September 23, 2018. It has a two pillars. First is Ayushman Bharat and second is National Health Protection Mission. So with regard to the Ayushman Bharat, 5 lakh health sub centers will be converted into health and wellness center. That has been the objective under this scheme. And the second is about National Health Protection Mission. So National Health Protection Scheme will provide a coverage of 5 lakh rupees per family per annum. And the objective is to reach at 50 crore beneficiaries. 50 crore beneficiaries and 10 crore families. So regarding the coverage, the scheme aims to cover 10 crore families of socio-economic caste census database. So only those sections of the society which are socio-economic deprived will be covered under this scheme. The benefits of the schemes are portable, so one can get the benefit of this scheme in any part of the country. So under this one, secondary and tertiary care hospitalization will be covered. So the cost of tertiary and a secondary care hospitalization will be covered under this scheme. It also allowed to take cashless benefits from any public private impaneled hospitals across the country. So this is what this is how it is going to make coverage. Regarding the funding, since it is a centrally sponsored scheme, so when there is a centrally sponsored schemes, they make contribution of 60%, and the 40% has to be contributed by the state sector when it comes to the normal states. So or when it comes to the states such as northeastern states and the Himalayan states, so they will have a contribution here in the state government. Here in this case, contribution from state governments will come 10%, whereas 90% contribution will be done by the central government. So central sponsored scheme, this is what the ratio is about. It aims to make out of pocket expenditure of nearly 60% in healthcare. So out of pocket expenditure means there are a lot of money that goes into the healthcare facilities or in order to get the healthcare facilities in the country, and this becomes very burden for the poor people. So therefore it wants to cover those out of pocket expenditure. So nearly, it is said, nearly 60% of the out of pocket expenditure will be covered under this scheme. Approximately 50% of Ayushman card recipients are women. That is what you can see the significant development when it comes to the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So this scheme is going to target women. So if you look at the women in India, their status, especially their nutritional, because of their nutritional status, their health status is very, very deplorable in the country. So therefore, the concentration of the policy should be on to deal with these issues. So that is what the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya scheme is doing. Under this one, so emphasis will be made on women, and that is showing some sort of result where the benefit, 40% of the benefits are women under this Jan Arogya scheme. So under the Jan Arogya scheme, so what future, what does the future holds for Ayushman Bharat under Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana? So even this year, there has been ambitious target of adding 10 crore new beneficiaries in the current financial year. There is also progress with respect to the rationalization of various packages, and the treatment protocols are under this one. So it will add few more incentives under this scheme, and especially its significance can be understood in today's context when during the COVID era we have understood the significance of health, emphasis on healthcare. So it tried to address those issues by rationalization of packages, rates, and treatment protocols. There has been automatic claim adjudication protocols that has also been made robust in order to streamline this process. So IT enabled system has been also provided. Apart from that, there is also effort being made by the government to build the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya schemes to digital transformation. So therefore, National Digital Health Mission, National Digital. Pallavi Singh, I see the voice coming from your side. So National Digital Health Mission. So PMJ aspires to build a healthcare in consonance with the National Digital Health Mission. Okay, no issue. Okay, so National Digital Health Mission. So digitization of the various records and various records of the people are being done, and this will greatly help or complement the objective of Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya scheme. So it will better a better healthcare infrastructure in the country. It is also, there is a participation of health workers being ensured under this program through programs like Ayushman Mitra. Ayushman Mitra are basically anybody can become the member of Ayushman Mitra. This is a voluntary enrollment. Under this one, there is a voluntary enrollment of people. One who wants to assist the patients and want to coordinate with the beneficiaries, they can also become the member of Ayushman Mitra. So that is voluntary available to everyone in the country. So that is what mentioned about the Ayushman Mitra. So this is what we have understood, that Ayushman Mitra, this is playing a very pivotal role. We need to understand that especially in the context of COVID, the significance of such schemes has greatly enhanced in the country, and we need to address the issue of downtrodden and deprived section of the society in order to enhance their interest in the country. Now there is another issue, that is man-made fiber sector. Okay, recently you might have heard that the ministry, okay, Ministry of Textiles, there has been a PLI, production linked initiative scheme announced scheme has been announced for textile sector. Textile sector has a huge significance in Indian economy. Not only it is creating jobs in the country, but also it is something which helps in garnering the foreign currency in the country, as it contributes huge amount of export. So it is also important for export in the country, and apart from that, it also provides jobs in the country. So therefore, in this fiber textile, there has been an issue about the man-made fiber sector. India is a hub of India is a hub of cotton textile. So cotton fiber is, our natural fibers are available in the country, and India is very good at natural fiber, the cotton. So in terms of cotton production, but then there has been a lot of push with respect to the man-made fiber sector across the world. So there are a lot of emphasis is being made across the world, and there is a huge demand outside of man-made fiber. So therefore, this has to given a greater push in the country. So in that context, the boost to man-made fiber sector has been given in the country. So if you look at cotton textile policy over this, and now Indian policymakers are also moving towards man-made fiber sector, and recently it has been emphasized upon by the Ministry of Textile. Now let us, in this context, just try to understand the textile market of India. So if you try to understand the textile market of India, India is the largest producer of cotton in the world and accounting 25% of the global output. But cotton's yarn share in the nation's export basket has halved due to the fact that there is a shift from natural fibers like cotton to man-made fibers across the world, and there is a huge demand for polyester, viscose, kevlar, and so on. So these are man-made fibers. These are being greater demand in the world. So therefore, India is not able to tap this market, and therefore there has been push for man-made fiber in the country. So if you look at the India's share in man-made fiber based ready-made garments. So man-made fiber based ready-made garments, when it comes to trading of MMF based ready-made garments, India accounts only 2%. Despite the fact that India is a second largest producer of man-made fiber, yet when it comes to designing or reading the garments of man-made fiber, India is not able to tap this market so far, and therefore there is a push given to this factor. Now, what are the steps that have been taken in order to enhance this particular sector? So government has recently removed the anti-dumping duty. Now, anti-dumping duty. What is anti-dumping duty? So what is anti-dumping duty? Anti-dumping duty is a duty which is imposed by the importing country, on imported items. Okay, so imported items or imported items. So that is what the anti-dumping duty is imposed. So if somebody is dumping its good in the market, in the local market, in that case, that duty is imposed. Why such duty is imposed? Dumping. So if the dumping is done, dumping means what? If a producer, okay, if a foreign producer is selling the goods at a cheaper rate than the local producer, okay, and it is able to control that market, that is known as dumping. So there can be two kinds of dumping. There can be price dumping, there can be predatory dumping. When there is a price dumping, then the producers are selling at a cost lower than the local companies. So that is a price dumping. But more problem is about the predatory dumping. When the producers are selling the goods in the local market, the foreign producers are selling the goods in Indian market at a lesser cost than its production cost. That in that case, it is known as predatory dumping. So therefore, in such circumstances, anti-dumping duty can be imposed on such items by the government. Okay, regarding this, suggestion is made by foreign trade policy review committee, foreign trade policy review committee, and the duty is imposed by the Ministry of Finance. Okay, now this such duties, anti-dumping duty is in consonance with the provisions of the WTO. Even the WTO, under the principle, one of the principle of WTO is to maintain, is to ensure that developing countries do not get into disadvantaged situation. So therefore, they can impose additional duty on such items where they see that import of various items are causing or disturbing its local market. Okay, so therefore anti-dumping duty is imposed on such items, can be imposed by the country on such items. So therefore India imposed anti-dumping duty on purified terephthalic acid, PTA, purified terephthalic acid. Okay, this is one of the important material for development of polyester. So polyester staple fiber needs to be developed, and this is one of the man-made fiber. And for development of this one, we need PTA. And what government did? Government government imposed anti-dumping duty on this one, but now it has been removed by the government of India. Similarly, government has also removed anti-dumping duty on viscose stable fiber. This is also one of the important input for man-made fiber. So anti-dumping duty on such items has also been removed by or scrapped by the government of India. Apart from that, government has also made initiatives such as Mega Investment Textile Park, that is known as Mitra policy, and this has been recently announced by the government of India. Under this one, 7 large integrated textile parks will be set up in the next 3 years. So this will give a huge boost to both cotton and man-made fiber segments in the country, and this will enhance the textile production in the country, as country is looking for or tapping the market, especially due to the conflict between US and China. There is a huge possibility that India can tap this market in the next few years. So therefore government should focus and strengthen this sector, especially the raw materials must be made available in the country so that it can import the finished items to that country. Similarly, remission of duties and taxes on export product scheme. So reduce the tax burden on exports and make them more competitive. In order to do that, the remission of duties and taxes on export products have been done. Dharni, the noise coming from your side, I would request you to please mute the voice. And apart from that, Government of India has recently announced production linked initiative for textile sector. Under this one, government will provide incentives to a tune of more than 10,000 crore rupees. So therefore, these are the various schemes or various steps that Government of India has recently announced with respect to the promotion of textile sector in the country. Dharni, please mute your voice. Okay, so this is what we have pushed for, and these are the various systems that have been announced. Now the suggestions, what suggestions can be made to further strengthen the sector. So first is about the GST structure of MMF. Okay, so GST structure of man-made fiber, where the GST on fiber is 18%, yarn is 12%, and fabric is 5%. This is an example of inverted duty structure. So as the government has pointed out that it will recorrect the inverted duty structure on certain items by the end of January, or by the end of this year. So we can expect that that correction, but that we need to correct. So what is inverted duty structure? Inverted duty structure is basically a duty structure where the raw material is taxed higher with a higher tax rate, whereas the finished items are taxed at a lower rate. So that is what you can see, the inverted duty structure. So inverted duty structure there is existence of inverted duty structure in man-made fiber in the country that need to be corrected. Okay, so that is what we need to change, and we need to bring uniformity in those items. There is a need to have a fiber neutral policy, so that manufacturers take in right now, if you look at, manufacturers are unable to take input tax credit in full. Basically what happens, there is an input tax credit. Input tax credit is what? Input tax credit is a credit tax system. So what happens, the government of India, when impose GST taxes, goods and services tax on various items, it imposes taxes on the value addition. But let's say somebody has produced, somebody has input cost of 100 rupees and its output cost is 200 rupees. So the government first collected the taxes against these 200 rupees. So let's say 10% taxes are there. So government will collect 20 rupees from this individual or this seller. 20 rupees will be collected from this 10% of 200. 20 rupees will be collected from this producer. However, later on the producer, as when the producer will mention that they have only, how much value addition has been done by this particular producer, this producer has done value addition of only 100 rupees. So therefore it must pay 10% against this value addition, not the output, total output. So it must be imposed a taxes on the value addition of this one. So it has to pay only 10 rupees as a tax because the value addition is only 100 rupees in this case. From 100 rupees, the tax might have been collected for 100 rupees, the tax might have been collected by the government from the other producers. So therefore, the people will have to claim it from the government. That is known as input tax. So somebody has already, input tax has already been paid. So therefore, you have to claim it from the government that you have taken tax from me for my inputs, which has already been taxed at various levels. So you need to return this. This one is known as input tax credit of the government. Okay, input tax credit. So that is what happens in the textile sector when they go for export or when they go for production. Government collects the money and therefore huge input tax credit, and as a result their balance got affected, because once somebody claims for input tax credit, the return will happen only after 120 days. So that is something problematic. So during that period their money got trapped, and therefore this affects the working this affects the a working capital of the company. So that is one challenge that is talking about. So input tax credit must be there must be reforms with respect to the input tax credit. More reforms and investment in infrastructure are needed, especially when it comes to the high logistics and labor cost. And in this context, the government of India has rightly talked about the creation of textile parks in the country. That process must be strengthened and speeded up in order to enhance the logistics or better logistics and low labor cost in the textile sector. This will enhance the competitiveness of the sector, and they can export more items to other countries. Apart from that, there is also suggested that we must encourage automation in the sector, especially in the ready-made garments. Okay, this will improve the productivity and at the same time reduce the cost of the companies. So therefore they will be able to sell. So automation must be done, especially those garments which are ready-made garments, not in all the textiles, but only those which are ready-made or which are which are man-made fibers. In order to incentivize in order to promote competitiveness and incentivize the exporters, we should promote the similar kind of incentive schemes as it is being given to the Bangladesh and Bangladeshi exporter and Vietnam exporter. So therefore, we have a huge competition with the Bangladesh and Vietnam now, because now there are a lot of companies in Vietnam and Bangladesh are getting order from the developed world. So therefore, we need to also compete with these small countries, and more importantly, we need to promote the exporters. Apart from that, the Bangladesh and Vietnam has a preferential trade agreement with various countries. For example, Vietnam has a preferential trade agreement with the with the US. It is also getting the benefit of general system of preference, which has been withdrawn when it comes to India. So in the context of India, the benefit of general system of preference has been withdrawn. So this is something that is creating challenge, and therefore the Indian goods or Indian exporters are facing huge challenges from Bangladesh and Vietnam. So we need to go for the similar kind of free trade agreement model with other countries. So that especially those countries in the West and US, or European countries and US countries, because there is a huge demand for these textiles in these countries. So in order to tap this market, we need to do, or we need to go for preferential trade agreements with this country. Apart from that, we can also export these items to the Arabian countries. So we must have free trade agreement with Arabian countries. So recently there was a news with respect to have a preferential trade agreement or mini trade agreement with uh, with uh, with the UAE. That must be speeded up. So such process must be speeded up. So that is what we see when it comes to the textile sector. So these are the various things that has been suggested in order to bring reform in the textile sector in the country. Making sense to everyone? So everyone has understood this concept. So here the question can be asked not only about the policies, but question can be also asked about the various kinds of the technical aspect, as we have talked about. So as you can see, the technical aspect with respect to the important key material for forming polyester staple fiber. So I would request everyone to go and just try to collect information with respect to the polyester staple fiber. What are the key raw materials? One of the raw materials is mentioned here, purified PTA. Similarly, there is another viscose staple fiber. These are mentioned. But what are the man-made fibers? Man-made fibers and its raw materials must be, you must also look at these things. Man-made fibers. What are the various man-made fibers? And what are the raw materials for these man-made fibers? Because the question can be asked with respect to this. Okay, now let us move on to the next sector, and which has been discussed, which has been in the news recently, and that is about the telecom reforms. Because in the last 20 years, telecom sector has faced huge challenges when it comes to AZR and various other issues. So what government has tried to do, it has brought various telecom reforms, and there are some procedural reforms that have been introduced. There are some structural reforms that have been introduced. So overall, it is considered as a structural reform in the telecom sector. So this will greatly help the telecom operators in the country, and more specifically, Idea will get benefited. Vodafone Idea, that merged entity, will get benefit from the telecom reforms that have been introduced by the government. So what are those telecom reforms? Let us try to understand this one. So if you look at recently, Government of India, the cabinet has approved a set of structural and procedural measures to address the issues faced by the telecom sector in the country. Okay. Now, why this the financial condition of telecoms deteriorated over the period of time? So it started with 1991, when the government decided to shift from a fixed charge to a revenue sharing models for the telecom sector. Okay. Now the telecom sectors our players were asked to pay a certain percentage of their adjusted gross revenue. So adjusted gross revenue, so they will have to pay, or they will have to share revenue from their adjusted gross revenue. That is what it is suggested. Now, what is adjusted gross revenue? It is basically all the earning of the telecom sector, which they earn not only from the telecom but non-telecom revenues. Okay, so there are some telecom revenues, there are some non-telecom revenues. So this includes, so adjusted gross revenue includes these two, that is non-telecom revenues as well. In 2003, against no, the Department of Telecom raised the demand of AGR payments. Okay, by altering the calculation of AGR, the adjusted gross revenue. Against this one, the telecom operators approached the Telecom Dispute Settlement Appellate Tribunal in 2006, and which rejected the government's contention. So it says that the government contention and the calculation of AGR is not is not appropriate in this context. So therefore, it rejected the government's contention. However, this was challenged by the government in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave verdict in favor of the government, and it held that Department of Telecom's definition of AGR was a correct one, and therefore the telecoms must pay AGR, interest and penalty on non-payment. So it is not about the AGR adjusted gross revenue, but then over a period of time, because of AGR, the money is also gets increased, and therefore they will have to pay interest and penalty as well. So this is what it was. It was suggested. Now, under this such situation, the telecom sector was really under pressure, and this pressure further get increased largely due to the competition they faced from the Geo. Okay, so with the formation of Geo Infocom, especially when it comes in 2015, then the sector faced huge challenges. The sector was already facing challenges when it comes to the AGR payment. Now the challenge also come from the Reliance Geo Infocom. So therefore, the financial condition of the telecom operators got deteriorated in this process, and you can see their sell prices also went down, and as a result, they face huge challenges. Now, what are the key reforms that have been introduced? There are two sort of reforms that have been introduced by the government. One is a structural reform, and the second is about the procedural reforms. Regarding the structural reforms, a moratorium has been granted, a 4-year moratorium when it comes to the payment of dues. There are 4-year moratorium has been announced for the sector, especially with respect to the AGR. Okay, and especially what AGR will include? It will include the payment of spectrum purchased in past auctions. Okay, so these are the things. So the first thing is about the 4-year moratorium has been provided. Means what? The payment has been deferred for the next 4 years. So the operators can pay the amount in the next 4 years whenever it fits suitable to make payment. So they can make payment in the next 4 years. So that is what it has been made provision under the structural reforms. It has also provided options to telecoms to pay interest on pay interest on these. So they can pay interest not only in the form of amount, the cash or money. They can also make payment in the form of equity. So if the particular company wants to make if they want equity, if they want to make payment in the form of equity, they can also make payment in the form of equity as well. So if they don't have enough surplus, if they don't have sufficient money, they can also make payment in the form of equity. That is what the structural reform is talking about. Now this is one that has been debated a lot, that why the government will require equity. But remember, if you don't have enough money, so there is an option given to the telecom operators that if they don't have money, they can they can make payment by way of equity as well. So that is another avenue that is provided to the telecom operators. Apart from that, there is a rationalization of adjusted gross revenue as well. Especially the non-telecom revenues have been excluded from the definition of adjusted gross revenue. So this is what what reforms, and this will decrease the pressure or burden on the on the telecom operators. So that is another reforms that you can see. Rationalization of bank guarantees. In fact, it has been reduced. So bank guarantee requirement has been reduced to 80%. Non-telecom revenue can be various things. For example, they are engaged in the process of, like it has been mentioned, that even in spectrum, the cost of spectrum allocation. So that is also a non-telecom revenue. That is in order to purchase the telecom functions. So that is non-telecom revenue. So this is what the non-telecom revenue is. Basically, what is from the operations, if they are able to make money, that is telecom revenue. But if they are earning by way of, let's say, they have assets, or if they are giving these assets to someone, that is also monetization of assets. So if they are doing monetization of asset, so that is a non-telecom revenue. Currently it has been talked a lot that the sector, especially the Vodafone, will go for monetization of its assets. So they can also monetize the assets. By monetization of assets, they can also make money. So this is non-telecom revenue. It is not coming from the telecom. So what you see, the adjusted gross revenue used to, used to bring non-telecom revenue as part of the adjusted gross revenue. So that is what the problem was. Okay, so rationalization of bank guarantees. So when it comes to the rationalization of bank guarantee, so it has been reduced. So bank guarantee with respect to the licenses fee has been reduced to 80%. So that is another reform that you can see. Rationalization of interest rate and removal of penalties. So all the penalties which were made on the telecom operators have been removed. And regarding the interest payment, that the interest payment will have to make by the operators. But when it comes to the penalty has been removed. Tenure of spectrum has also been increased from 20 years to 30 years. That will greatly strengthen and especially improve the balance sheet of the telecom operators. So that is another. 100% FDI, foreign direct investment, has been suggested under the automatic route. So 100% FDI has been suggested under this program. So this is what you can see. 100% foreign direct investment has been mentioned. So this will be available. So foreign investors can make investment in this. So there will be 100% automatic route. Okay. So what is automatic route? So there are basically, for FDI, there are two route. One is automatic route. One is a government route. So if somebody wants to make investment, it doesn't require the various kinds of permission from the RBI and government. It can make investment on its own. So this is the automatic route. So it will not have to first require approval of Ministry of Finance, RBI, and Government of India. They can make investment on its own. For example, today there is a telecom operator that is Vodafone Idea. So in Vodafone Idea, if suppose Vodafone, the original company Vodafone, wants to make investment in the Vodafone Idea, they can make investment. They don't have to go to the take the government route, and then only they can make investment. They can go directly and make investment in this company directly. So that is what it has been opened for. No spectrum usage charges for spectrum acquired in the future spectrum auctions. So usage charges, spectrum usage charges will not be taken from from them. So that is what the reforms. Regarding the procedural reforms, it has suggested about the auction calendar. So there will be a fixed auction calendar of the spectrum every year. That has been mentioned. So the government will and the department will go for a fixed auction calendar. So this will give this will give a better sense to the telecom operators. There will be there will be done away with the cumbersome requirement of licenses. Okay, so that will be replaced with self declaration. That is, again, the paper customer acquisition forms will be replaced with the digital. So there will be digitization force in this also. So that is another reforms that have been expected, and that has been done or suggested under this one. There is also know your customer reforms. Okay, so again here the self know your customer can be claimed. That will be based on app based provision. So these are the various procedural reforms, procedural and structural reforms that have been initiated by the government, and this will greatly help the operators, telecom operators in the country. A lot of money will be freed, and therefore they will have their financial position will strengthen compared to the previous situation. So this is what we have understood with respect to the reforms. Now, how will this impact the overall reforms? So this will make a huge impact in the sector. This may give some sort of problem for the government in terms of tax revenue, but in the larger context, the sector, once the sector gets strengthened, the government will be able to cover up its position. So if you look at the impact of it on telecoms, so it will provide relief by easing liquidity and cash flow in the telecom, especially it will be very beneficial for Vodafone and Vodafone Idea, VI. So that is one. The 4-year moratorium will provide a short-term relief to debt-laden Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel. So currently, if you look at our telecom sector, it is dominated by one company, and other companies are not in a situation to compete with the leading companies such as Jio. So therefore, slowly and steadily, what we see, this is there is a kind of monopoly that you can see in the sector right now. If you look at in 2009, we had more than 17 telecom operators, but right now we have only 3 telecom operators along with BSNL, the government. Okay, which has which you cannot see anywhere. Okay, that is the problem. Now it is dominated hugely by the Jio. So therefore, there is a need to create competition in the sector. With this reform, we can believe that there will be some sort of competition in the sector. Now, streamlining of auction calendar and removal of spectrum usage charges will bring down the dues. Okay, so dues outgo which they have, so that will bring down that cost. It will also enhance the ease of doing business, and apart from that, there is a 100% FDI through under automatic route. It will promote the investment in this sector. In future, we can expect more number of telecom operators in the in this sector. So that is how the sector will get benefited in the process. Even the telecom operators will get benefited in the process. It also opens up the foreign agency to make investment in the country and create more competition in the telecom sector. The government might have to face some financial loss. There will be revenue loss for the government in the next 4 financial year, largely because it will provide moratoriums to the companies. Apart from that, the receipts from the spectrum usage charges, license fee, and so on. So ultimately, the government of India's tax expenditure. Okay, so the cost. Hope you understand the meaning of tax expenditure. What is tax expenditure? The cost of various exemptions that government of India is providing. Its tax expenditure will increase in that case, because government of India will provide a lot of exemptions to the companies. So there will be lot of opportunity loss in this process. So that will increase for the government of India. There is option of converting the due into equity. It will be a difficult task for the government because now there is a concept that government has no interest to do business. So that principle or that philosophy will take a setback, will receive a setback in that context. So the that can have a huge impact. So if it is converted into equity, the government will have a lot of interest in the particular company, and therefore it will create some sort of you can see some sort of challenges in the market. So especially in terms of managing those equity. So this is what we have understood about the telecom sector. So these are the reforms that have been introduced this year, telecom reforms, and this is how it is going to impact the telecom reforms, telecom sector in the country. So uh, um, now with these reforms, we can expect that more number of telecom operators will be in the sectors, and that will greatly uh, push for greater development of the sector and prosperity of the particular sector. Okay. Now this is what we have concluded today's discussion. But if you have any question so far, you can raise a question with respect to the discussion what we have, and also if you have any other general doubt, you can raise those general doubt. Okay, so if you don't have any doubts, so we can close the session today. Okay, so I believe everyone has got has fair amount of idea about the things what we discussed. So thank you for your participation, and I hope everyone has understood the things well. And let us see what are the news in the next week, and we will discuss those issues in the next week. Thank you for today. Okay, we will meet on next Sunday. Thank you.